Welcome to the Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online Conversation 2021 Festival Edition. Please join me, Kelly Devine, the Artistic Director, and Nina Strike, Executive Director, as we welcome Tami Gold and Pam Sporn, the filmmakers behind Making the Impossible Possible, which is joining our lineup of films which can be seen in-person screenings starting September 20th through the 26th and streaming online September 27th through October 3rd. Please check out peacefilmfest.org for all the updates and details regarding the schedule and screening opportunities. And now let's join Tami and Pam and welcome them. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yes, hi, Tami and Pam. It's great to have you with us. So let's start off by, why don't you tell us about the film?
Okay. The film tells the story of students at Brooklyn College in 1969 who organized one of the very first departments of Puerto Rican studies. And this was at a critical moment when college and access to college was often difficult or even closed to people of color. And so it's a very courageous struggle. And basically it's the telling of the story, and it's the telling of the story from the activists, from those who were involved with the struggle and those who were involved with the victory. Pam, you want to go on?
Yes, and it's a very dramatic story because these students were brave and there was great leadership by young Puerto Rican women who organized bit by bit on the campus and reached out to other groups. There was a great coalition formed between the Puerto Rican Alliance and the Brooklyn League of African American Collegians, which was the Black student group, who at the same time were pushing for an African American Studies Institute. And there was also coalition with radical white students in SDS, Students for a Democratic Society at the time. And of course, all of these students had come up they were teenagers and young children during the early 60s and influenced by the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement and the anti-war movement. And so all of these issues came home to them on the campus. And it just was a very dramatic story of how they, piece by piece, built this movement among the students and the professors and demanded their space at Brooklyn College. And of course, at the time, a great struggle for open admissions was going on at the City University system. So it was not only a struggle to say that we want our history and culture to be taught and recognized, it was also part of this broader struggle to break open the doors of public higher education to working class and students of color. So it was about the content of what was being taught, and it was about who got to teach and who got to study. And so there was a lot of bravery, a lot of arrests, and a lot of drama. So it was exciting to work on.
You know, when we started, we were asked to do this film. It wasn't that it was one of these passion films that came from the filmmakers. Pam and I were invited to do really an event film, really like a 15-minute film that would be shown at the 50th anniversary event that was going to have hundreds of people. And then we did the interviews, and the interviews were done in December, maybe a few pickups in January. Well, lo and behold, by March, there was the shutdown because of COVID. And at that point, Pam and I are reading the transcripts and we're looking at the footage, and it became really clear, this is a dramatic story. This is not a 10-minute piece to be shown at an event. And it was really the storytelling of the activists who are now in their late 60s or even mid 70s, who are telling the story and their own history. And what's so amazing is that when we started to say, hey, it's COVID, we have time, it's going to be edited. The whole post-production was completely done electronically, virtually, just like we're doing now. And what's so amazing is the archival footage. And I think maybe your viewers would really love to see the film, because there's a richness in the still photography and the moving images that the students themselves documented. And there's something for everyone to learn, and that's to tell our own stories. And that's part of why the film, I think, has great resonance. Also because ethnic studies is under attack, right? Under attack everywhere. Public education is under attack. So somehow making the impossible possible came out at this funny juncture where people are hungry for this information. And so that's kind of what I think is unique about the experience, that it wasn't a film that Pam wanted to make or that I wanted to make, that it came to us. And it's been such a positive experience.
And can you tell us a little bit, you touched on that you started the project with one idea in mind, and once you started digging in, it took you on this different journey. How did you decide to approach this archival based storytelling along with interviews to really make this contemporary and vital and not just a historical survey?
Pam?
Well, one of the things that I should say that we were invited to do this by a member of the Alliance for Puerto Rican Education and Empowerment, who we've been co-organizers with in a group called Jewish Voice for Peace. And this is Esther Farmer, and she speaks in the film very eloquently. So we came to this project as filmmakers and activists, and as a pair of co-directors that were enmeshed in activist type filmmaking. So it wasn't random that this project came about. So we had intentions of reaching an audience and having an impact that would resonate today. And one of the first things that we shot was a meeting of the current Puerto Rican Alliance, which is one of the oldest student organizations at CUNY and one of the longest standing Puerto Rican student organizations. So to capture these young students talking about the demonstrations had just been carried on in Puerto Rico that summer, and so they were thrilled with this kind of
Vitality.
Political vitality. And so to see early on their exchange with some of the veterans of the 60s and 70s movement in that meeting was a way to link the past and the present. And then at the end of the film, viewers will see that there's another link that has to do with the current struggle at CUNY today. So yes.
Mm-hmm. And also during the pandemic, there's been the great, I would call it, uprising around police brutality. And there's footage that we filmed with the protests for Black Lives Matter. And there was one specific protest where it was led by the Latinx communities in New York City. And so we filmed that, and we filmed it with some of the protagonists, some of the veterans. And so it's a nice woven connection to the struggles today. Mm-hmm. So that was a nice bridge. I mean, remember, we wanted that bridge so badly. What's going to happen? COVID, and we've got to bridge this. We've got to show the veterans in action, veterans with the young people, etc. Mm-hmm. Us old folks who's been around the block with the new ones. Mm-hmm. Well, lo and behold, there was a huge international cry against police brutality in the United States, stopping the killings of Black people, Black men. And this rise made a perfect bridge. and we didn't have to push. You know, in filmmaking, sometimes you have to find things. And sometimes you have to bend something to make it work. Like we would say to Milga or to Antonio, aren't you going to some kind of demonstration, or isn't there some gathering with students? And well, we were trying to push something, and wow, it just sprung out right in front of us. And I think that really is a difference between a film that's completely historic with archival footage, the making it contemporary really gives people a way in to see it's their struggle.
And
Yeah, go on.
the bridge was organic.
Yeah.
Because the people who were involved in the struggle to win Puerto Rican studies in 1969 and then defended in 1974, they've remained active in their communities, whether it be around education or independence for Puerto Rico or union struggles. They've remained active over these years. So we were able to capture that. And because Tami has a wonderful archive of footage from activism at CUNY, we were able to go back into her tapes and find footage of some of our subjects, specifically Antonio Nadal, walking across the Brooklyn Bridge as part of a massive CUNY rally in 1995. So that kind of continuum, and then to see Antonio in this Latinx for Black Lives in 2020. So it was a natural, organic kind of bridge. And I think that was also supplemented by the archival material that we got from the students themselves. Now,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was going to say one other thing that's fantastic. We made this with a team of women. I mean, gee, can you believe it? It was just a team of us. It was one of the other producers, Giseli Colon Lopez, and it was Milga Nidal. It was Esther Farmer. It was 4 women. No, that's 5 actually. And 5 women. And it really was a team. This is a team project. And we made it, the whole thing, to the very end with $16,000. And I think we have to talk about how collaboration and energy and a real belief in the mission of a film means that we don't have to play with the big boys. We don't have to go down that area where we need $1 million or 400,000 to tell a story. And I want to share that with filmmakers, that there's ways we can do this work, which is real collaborative, and it's really a political collaboration and creative, but it's political.
Right. And we have to mention our wonderful editor. Tami and I did the rough cut and the assembly edit, but we really, we brought what we had to a fabulous editor, Sonia Gonzalez Martinez, and she just like really put a bang on it. And the other thing, what Tami's talking about, this really participatory type of media, that's the tradition that we both come out of in this documentary field, which has become so high budget in a lot of ways. But this kind of participatory, collaborative approach where we relied on the archival material from our subjects. We had the generosity of Third World Newsreel to be able to go into their archives. And then because of our relationships through other projects, that we have this wonderful music from Arturo O'Farrell, and who's a Grammy Award winner, and then also a Grammy Award winner, Oscar Hernandez. And these are musicians who are world renowned, but they come out of the same community that the people who are in this film. And Oscar was saying this resonates. I went to City College. This was happening when I was a student at City College. So the generosity of people to share their story, share their time, share their talent, because they believe this was an important story to tell.
I mean, that's important. I wish I could say the same thing's true with the current film I'm doing, because it's not easy to have a film have that much support, that basically it was made with the generosity of everyone, including Pam and myself, because this wasn't a film that we got paid to do. Let's put it that way, very gently and nicely. You know, I looked at it as an act of activism. And I love to do work as an act of activism. Not everything is for glory and money. In fact, that's not the origins of independent filmmaking.
Exactly.
Our origins was to tell the stories that we believed in, not about our own personal visibility or economics or personal economic gains. So, you know, it's a hard time because we have to keep reminding people that alternative media and alternative independent cinema was grown out of political struggle, and that it didn't just happen that everybody somehow were making these documentaries and doing them for Netflix or getting the HBO big budgets. Or there's a history, and I hope your viewers are interested in the history that many of us were nurtured in.
Well, and everything that you've both been talking about, the collaboration, the activism, that's at the core of our mission at Global Film Festival, and why, Tami, we've been privileged to program multiple films from you, and thank you for that. And Pam, we're so glad for this opportunity to showcase your work with this film. But it would be really wonderful to, I know you've touched on it in your answers, but to talk about specifically what you hope people to take away from seeing this, in the sense of it aligning with our mission to help people have models and ideas to make the world a more just, peaceful place.
Well, I guess you're saying, yes, your festival is very important. And one of the things I miss the most is going to the high schools. The Global Peace Film Festival brings the work and the filmmakers into schools. And that was some of my best experiences at any festival, going into a high school with a film about a hate crime and having to talk to young people about homophobia and violence and difference. And that was powerful. And I thank you for that experience. That's what your festival does, and that's what we want our work to do. And so in this particular case, with this film, I hope people can watch Making the Impossible Possible and understand every local area, there's a possibility for engagement. And whether that's a school, whether it's fighting for diversity or fighting for access to public education, whatever it is, I would hope people see their veterans in the struggle to fight, that they see that they can do it too. And that a film festival with your mission and commitment really is also, it helps nurture people into struggles in communities. And you're giving the tools. You have the films. So that's what I would hope. And we're at a really hard time now. Public education is under attack. What do? We fight back. I was just chanting yesterday at a demo for public education. So yeah, I mean, we're really at a critical moment. And I think that's partly why Making the Impossible Possible has really reached people. It is the kind of, how do you say that, when things come together at a particular point from different areas. And here you have a film at the same time where we see at Hunter College Asian studies being cut, where we see the elimination of faculty in the Department of Puerto Rican Studies at Brooklyn College. Faculty have been cut. So this film comes out when this is all happening. It couldn't be a better moment.
And nationwide, the pushback against the 1619 project that the New York Times did, the vicious attack against this critical race theory that this film is something that your viewers can use in their communities. It doesn't have to be about specifically Puerto Rican studies, but it's about the diversity of experience in our country and our students' right to know about all of that history. So, and people can be involved on the local level and really be inspired by people like Milga Nadal and Esther Farmer and all of the people in the film who share the nuts and bolts of their strategy of how they built their movement. It wasn't just, it happened today. I mean, it took a process of months and then years. And then 5 years later, there was another struggle just to defend their department. So that kind of understanding that longevity and that commitment and the leadership of women, really, really fabulous, that people can really use as a model.
Another thing, all the interviews were done in one house and only one other two interviews in another house, but we did them all.
You shouldn't tell them that.
Okay. But you'll be wanting to watch this film just so you could say, oh my God, they got different locations in one house. But yeah, we did it 2 days in one house, long hours, students helping us. And yeah, I have never made a film this fast.
Wow, that's terrific. And also it's a really good length for people to use in community settings, community groups, as well as classroom settings. So that's something to tell our audiences about the film, and hope they come to see it at the festival and watch it on the streaming platform. So
absolutely.
So what's next for each of you, and how can our audiences support your work?
Pam, what's next?
Well, first, I would just like to emphasize that this film, Making the Impossible Possible, is a production of APRE, Alliance for Puerto Rican Education and Empowerment. And they have a website, which is www.apree.org. And it was done in collaboration, and it's distributed by Third World Newsreel, which is a 50-year plus community-based, such an important media institution, and we couldn't have done it without them either. So that's important. What's next for me is really digging in, and with my students at Brooklyn College, I've taught, I'm a veteran of 28 years of high school teaching in New York City, and I was involved in early youth media making from the late 80s through the 90s up. And I've taught at Hunter College with Tami for a long time. This is my first semester at Brooklyn College, teaching an intro to documentary class, and I met my students on Wednesday. They're wonderful, so I'm excited about digging in and sharing some of this process with them.
And I'm working on another film. It's a working title, It's Just a Job. And it's about sex work, and it's about the decriminalizing of sex work. And it's been a journey, because I started doing one thing and then I did a twist into doing it about one character. And then I started to see that that was not necessarily the best way to tell the story. So then I did a whiplash to another style. So basically, yeah, it's been a struggle, but it's a documentary that's going to look at sex work and sex work as a job, and to understand sex work historically, and that we have to get the cops out, just like we got to get the cops out of dealing with the homeless and dealing with the mentally ill, and just dealing
out of the schools,
poverty, and getting the cops out of the schools. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we will be certain, Pam and Tami, to keep our Global Peace Film Festival community aware of all of your updates through our social media platforms. So everyone listening, thank you for joining Tami Gold and Pam Sporn. This has been a delightful, in-depth conversation regarding making the impossible possible. You can find out more about this film by going to the website for Third World Newsreel, and that's www.twn.org. That's Third World Newsreel. Once you're on the site, you can search for Making the Impossible Possible, but also be sure, and as Tami mentioned, they have been around, they're an institution that's been around, and Pam has mentioned, for decades, and they have an incredible catalog. So you would really, you'll lose yourself when you go to their site and look around. And in terms of the upcoming 2021 Global Peace Film Festival, please visit peacefilmfest.org. Find out all of the details regarding scheduling and tickets, and we will see you at the next Glow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.